Way down the road, the woman suddenly slumped into the grass. Not only that, she asked the officer beside her to lie down on the ground like her. After listening carefully to the movement of the ground, the woman told her companion that if the water level continued to rise, the banks of the river would be washed away like sand. The two then went back to the center of the city. They checked the water level and flow rate. The data they got made the woman worried. In the basement of a farmer's house, the woman noticed that water had begun to seep out of the red bricks. All the signs were there to show the seriousness of the situation. After reviewing the recent data from each dam, the woman's analysis shows that, at this rate, it won't be long, the north bank of the river will be flooded. But the professor at the hydrographic office thought the woman was being alarmist. The city has not been flooded in almost a century. The levees have been reinforced by the authorities. There was no way the city could have been flooded in its present condition. A heated argument erupted between the two men. Before leaving, the woman told the deputy governor, Jack, who had invited her opinion, the only solution to the flooding was to open the levees before the floods come, creating a new channel for the excess water to escape. With that said, she left the area, despite Jack's wishes. Meanwhile, Jack took his men to the local reservoir. The river was stocked with water that should have been to be emptied a few days ago, but the man in charge was delayed by the upcoming sailing regatta was delayed. After Jack's insistent attitude, the man in charge had to verbally agree to his request. Anna, on her way home by helicopter, she accidentally discovered a weir that should not exist on the map. Upon closer inspection, Anna realized that the map Jack had given her was a map from 10 years ago. She rushed the helicopter back and found Jack's home, as the water level had risen upstream. Her previous advice to blow up the levee. Her earlier advice to blow up the levee would be completely ineffective. When she got the news, Jack rushed, called the army on a demolition mission, but due to poor reception, the officer in charge of the mission could not hear what he was saying. After hanging up the phone, he simply ordered his men to press the detonator. By the next day, the area was completely submerged by the river, but that didn't stop the river from rising. A mistake on the map also led to Anna's misjudgment. She thought the floods would only threaten the north bank of the river, but the way things were going, even the city center could be flooded. The only way to get out of the city now is to turn the last bend in the river before it entered the city. The last bend in the river before it enters the city. Although this move would to protect the city from the floods, but the people in the villages below would have to be evacuated in advance. Just as Jack had agreed to the woman's plan, he was about to sign the papers. The minister approached him. Because this move will flood several villages below, whether or not Anna's judgment was correct, the officials would be condemned by the people. To prevent this from happening, the minister asked Jack to sign the papers, and at the same time, the minister had Jack sign the papers and had his men tell the news to the television station. When the villagers heard on television that when the army was going to blow up the dikes here to release the flood water to defend their homes, they gathered together to stop the army from carrying out the blasting mission here.